Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to welcome you to today's seminar. And although the seminar the topic was decided well before this pandemic, I don't think I could think about a better topic to host a webinar on mindfulness for social entrepreneurs. We know that social entrepreneurs are very resilient. They always need these tools, but now all of us need these tools. I will be your host for today's webinar, and my name is Luisa Ferreira. I haven't seen who is joined already, but for those that are SIT alumni, welcome to everyone, and for the others, I'm the head of the social program at the IB Institute. This series of webinars that we've been hosting, they were principally designed for the SIT alumni, but all those change makers out there that want to create impact are welcome. Let me introduce to you today's speaker. For those that are SIT alumni, you may have already attended many of the trainings that Kim has hosted as part of the SIT program. Kim is an educator and a coach on communications and fundraising. And before I ask her to start with this webinar, I just have three warnings. One is our webinar will be recorded and later on posted in our YouTube channel. Since the topic may be more private than other webinars, we will cut the last part of the webinar where there will be more interactions. I know that Kim will be asking you to join with questions and with some thoughts. If you want, you can turn off who you are when you type on the Q&A, and you'll show as anonymous, so no privacy issues. And the final warning is we haven't had access to the questions you submitted at the time of registration, so please do submit them again, and then I will share them with Kim throughout the webinar. So Kim, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. My massive thanks to the EIB for helping to facilitate this, because like Louisa said, this probably couldn't have come at a more important time for everybody. So this is really coming from my heart today that I get to share this with you. This is a session we're going to run. We're going to take a little look at how mindfulness really can be applied to this wonderful group of social entrepreneurs. But I'm sure we've got some of you here today who may not even classify yourself as a social entrepreneur. Perhaps you're just a regular entrepreneur or regular business person or working in any other sector. Or maybe just classify yourself as a human being, in which case this is all relevant for you. We're going to take you through actually quite a quick tour of what is mindfulness and why is it helpful, because I want to spend the bulk of this hour with you looking at some of the really great exercises you can use to help. And then I think in light of everything that's going on, I wanted to take a brief moment towards the end of the webinar before we do your questions to just chat to you about finding your inner leader in this time. So let's crack on and get started. So what is this mindfulness stuff? So if you haven't come across it, first of all, I'm a bit like, where have you been? Because it has exploded across the globe as a resource for people to use for a lot of reasons, which we'll find out about shortly. But in essence, mindfulness is starting to be aware of your thoughts instead of being caught up in them or with them. And this is basically what we call metacognition. So it's the idea that you are aware of your thoughts instead of just being controlled by them or swept up in them. And there's a lot of analogies that are used in mindfulness. One of my favorite ones is the idea of, it's the difference between you watching a movie in a cinema and feeling all the tension and the emotions, because it feels like you are in the movie, particularly if it's an action movie or a horror movie. And when you're caught up in it, it's very hard to distinguish from the fact that you are not about to be attacked by an alien, but you're feeling all of those emotions. and you're thinking all of those thoughts that you're seeing of the people inside this film. And the metacognition part is the part that's equivalent to you realizing that you are actually just sat in the cinema, or you're actually just sat in your living room at home watching a movie. Yes, you are experiencing the effects of watching that movie, feeling the fear, feeling all of the tension, but it isn't you in the movie. And that's the essence of what makes mindfulness so incredibly powerful. Because if you can create a distance and start to realize you're not in the movie, then you can start to feel a lot more calm and composed. Personally, I like to try and avoid horror movies, but if I have to be sat in front of one, the entire time I am reminding myself that I'm not in the movie, it's just actors, and this is just things that are happening that I am observing, that I am witness to, but it isn't me. It doesn't have to be me in that moment. Now, there's a really beautiful, long history of mindfulness. And of course, it goes back into lots of different cultural traditions like Hinduism and Buddhism. I've put in a link here that we'll make sure also goes out to you in the follow-up email. That's a really nice history of mindfulness, of seeing where the origins come from. But today, the stuff I'm sharing with you is based in the Western translations of those principles and methodologies that are used for stress relief and stress reduction. And never could there be a time that's more beneficial for that. But when we designed this webinar, actually, one of the things we wanted to really talk about in terms of what is this mindfulness was more related to all the side effects of why it's helpful for us in our busy working lives. And the research, again, we've got references on the right-hand side, but I'm going to give you a link in the email that goes out afterwards as well, to all the research that sits beautifully. Stanford University in the US has got a huge department now dedicated to understanding mindfulness and applying it. So there's a huge amount of academic research and resource there. But for those of you who are a bit like, well, you know, this is all good and well, this mindfulness of starting to notice my thoughts and notice my emotions. And a lot of you will know that one of the techniques to do that is meditation. But actually, we now know that science is showing us that all of this mindfulness practice improves attention and focus. It improves our ability to listen, the quality of our listening. It improves our empathic accuracy, so we can more accurately understand what is happening for somebody else, rather than misinterpreting it or not understanding it at all. And we also know that it supports changing behavior. So if you are looking to change behaviors in yourself as part of your personal growth, then this is a beautiful way to find the reflection to do that and move into becoming the kind of person you want to become. It also is shown to improve your decision making, help you assess things because you can take on multiple perspectives in order to make a better decision. It helps regulate your emotions. So on those days when the stress levels are really high and everything just seems to be going wrong, this is a beautiful way of just bringing all of those emotions into check, getting the perspective, and finding a way to make a decision beyond the emotions. It's also then beautiful at improving stress, improving pain-related issues, and gives you a much greater emotional intelligence, which is really phenomenal. One of the things that always blows me away is the statistic that in Nepal, there are 20,000 words for different emotions and feelings. Think about the number that you use every day. I think on average, I would refer to 5, maybe 10 different emotions that I think about having on a regular basis. But we're also becoming much more aware of the other emotions going on in ourselves and in others. So that EQ goes through the roof. And also there's evidence that it improves your negotiation, because the more you can empathize with people, the more you can understand them, the more they can sense that you understand them, the better it is with your negotiating. And when I look down that list, all I can think of is this is a list of amazing things that people need to have at their fingertips if they're social entrepreneurs working today. Just as a quick review of that list, how many of you feel like having that at your fingertips would be a helpful thing? See if you can just raise your hands for me in the participant space, so I can see how many of you are like, yeah, I would like a little bit more of that in my life, my work. I feel like this is going to be a strong response. Hopefully you've all found that little badge to pop your hands up. So that's why it's helpful. But let's move into having a little look at now, taking a view of why it's so important, and some really simple exercises that we can start to have a look at using, because right now I think we need them. So the first one that is one of the most simple, but you will hear any mindfulness practitioner telling you is one of the most powerful, is using your breath. Now, have any of you ever tried meditation? I'm going to get you again a breath meditation. Has anyone ever tried any of this? So raise your hands again for me if you've ever tried a breath meditation. Wonderful. Oh, we've got some very familiar people having tried this before, and I think some of you will have tried it with me. Now, the reason why the breath is so powerful is for so many reasons. First of all, it is one of the few things that you can absolutely guarantee you're not going to forget to pack in your rucksack or your handbag every day. It is there for you all the time, anytime you need it. And in that sense, it's like a little bit like having a best friend go everywhere with you. Now, the breath is something we want to become really conscious of, because sometimes it's responding to the thoughts in our head. And if we've got thoughts of fear or anxiety, which I know a lot of us will be having at the moment, the breath can respond to those thoughts and start to become very shallow, very short. We can also see that the in-breath can sometimes even be longer than the out-breath. And that is a signal to the body that there is something to be panicking about, something to be worrying about. Imagine if you were having to run away from the tiger across the savannah in Africa, millennia ago. And in that moment, what you would need is a really good big in-breath and quick out-breath, big in-breath and quick out-breath to help pump all of that energy into your muscles to help you move and get to safety. But of course, we can have a quick reality check that although things are very scary at the moment, we can be safe in the rooms that we're sat in right now. And so there is a particular breath that we call cardiac coherent breath. And that means that the in-breath is shorter than the out-breath. So have a go for me now at just using your breath to help put your body into a state of calm and relaxation. And this is probably one of the most powerful things we can do over the next couple of months. So take a breath in for a count of 4 for me. So breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See if you can go to 8. Again, in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. In 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And just really start to notice that your body starts to feel calmer, because you've sent it a message through your breath that everything's okay. So that's one of the first techniques I want you to remember as we go through the next couple of months, that it's there for you all the time. But the breath, of course, can be used in mindfulness in a lot of different ways. Meditation is one aspect of mindfulness. And a breath meditation is a really powerful way, not only to make sure you can get into a cardiac coherence rhythm to keep nice and calm, but also to practice your focus and your attention. And this for me feels very important right now. So I don't know about you, but I found that with all of the news happening, it's really hard to stay focused on doing other things I have to do, whether it's for work or around the house, because I'm constantly tempted by this need to check my phone. And I'm also aware that noticing and paying attention to a lot of that messaging isn't helping me keep in a very good mindful place. So one of the things we're going to practice is the ability to stay focused on the things that are important to us, that are meaningful and that matter right now. And you can use a breath meditation just for 5 minutes in the day to help train your brain to do that. So take a moment for me now. And a good meditation position is when you sit on a chair or on the floor, but somewhere where you can have a really nice, straight, upright back. So you want your spine to be as tall and straight as you can get it. What we're really just trying to do is give you space to breathe. So as long as you're feeling that space to breathe, that's the important thing. So get nice and settled, have a little wiggle, and then when you're ready, close your eyes. And as you just start to relax, just begin to notice your breath and notice it wherever you feel it the most. When you breathe, you should feel your belly expanding outwards when you breathe in. So it's filling up with all that air and pushing your belly out. And that might be where you feel your breath the most. The other place you might feel it might be in the movement around your rib cage, your chest, as your lungs fill and empty. You might feel it in the back of your throat, or in your nose, or at the very tip entrance to your nostrils, or even the tip of your lip. Wherever you notice it the most, that's the place I'd like you to focus. And just connect with that breath and leave everything else behind. And your mind might wander. You might begin to think about other things you can hear, or distractions, or things you're worried about not having finished. But in that moment, just allow that thought to have been there and come back and notice the breath again. So it's not wrong to have other thoughts or to be distracted, but we're training the brain to just come back and focus on the thing you want it to focus on, which is your breath. Stay there for a moment longer. And when you're ready, come back to your awareness of the room you're in and open your eyes. Now, I'd love you, for those of you who would like to share, either pop it into the chat box or into the Q&A, wherever you're comfortable, and just let me know how many times did you notice your mind wandering onto something else. Perhaps some of you were able to stay completely focused on your breath the whole time. And I'm going to ask Louisa just to share with me anything you might be popping into that chat box. And I've got Louisa on mute at the moment, so I'm going to ask her to pop off mute for me and let me know how many times you found yourself with a wandering mind.
So.
Oh, I've got you on mute again, Louisa, sorry.
Unmute. Can you hear me now? So
yes,
we had
perfect.
several responses. Some people said 4, some people said 3. Someone says, my mind just keeps wandering. But on the other hand, we have someone that says, I was completely focused, and so 0 times.
Oh, I love it. So that's exactly. Now, I meditate a lot with the breath. And there are some days where I finish my meditation and it shouldn't be like this, but I'm quite proud of myself. I'm like, I was so focused. And other days where my mind is so busy, it is racing, that I've just got thoughts piling in one after the other. The most important thing is that you do not think that meditation or using a breath meditation like this means you have to have managed to clear your mind. It's almost like just allowing and accepting that, oh, this is where I am today. So often if I've had a meditation of breath in the morning, first of all, I know that I was trying to focus on the breath, and that training is going to help me to focus on my work later. And the research behind this is really exciting. Your attention really does start to climb because of doing this practice. But the other thing is, if I've got a very busy mind, and like some of you who shared have said, my mind was just going, then in the morning I just say, this is what my mind is like today. I've got a very busy, a very distracted mind. And the nice thing is I can use that to decide, how am I going to work today? So I tend to give myself very small, short tasks until my mind has quieted down. I am not going to start a big task when my mind is like that. So you can work with yourself better when you understand that. So there's 2 ways in which you can use your breath to become a lot more calm and use it for helping to increase your attention and focus. Now,
I would just like to share with you a comment, because I think it's very powerful, of someone that said, I felt my heart was squeezing.
I love that. And actually, I'm going to come back to that in just a moment, because what you've started to do is become aware not just of your breath and your thoughts, but you've started to connect with your body, which is so beautiful and powerful. And we're going to talk about why in just a moment. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, what some of you will have begun to notice with your busy minds is that there are some thoughts that keep creeping in. So although I asked you how many thoughts did you have, or how many times did your attention wander, actually now I'm going to get you to do the next exercise, which is about observing your thoughts. Because as I said, we want to start noticing them like they're a movie that we're watching, so that we need to make sure, do I want to be in this movie, or do I want to be in a different movie? So I'd like you to take just 60 seconds now to write down everything that just starts to come into your mind. So we call this a stream of consciousness. So take 60 seconds. I'll start my timer now, and I'll stop you and bring you back when we're ready. So off you go. Just write down anything that comes to mind. If you don't have pen and paper to hand, just notice. Any thought that comes flowing into your mind, we're just noting it down. That's my little timer going off. So I'd love you now to take a moment and just reflect on what you wrote down or what you noticed about your thoughts that were coming in. And tell me what you notice about them. So again, I'd love you to pop this into either the chat box or the Q&A. What are you noticing when you look at these thoughts now? What do you observe about them? And take a little time to reflect. So again, I'm going to ask Louisa if she can share any of your reflections. I did a similar exercise yesterday, and so many people in the team I was with reflected that they noticed a lot of their thoughts were things beyond their control at the moment. Perhaps that's something some of you can relate to, but there is so much happening at the moment that's beyond our control. So Louisa, can I ask you to come off mute for me and share what some of the group is saying?
I think that, there's a common one, and we are all worried about the future.
Yeah.
Some about family, some how disturbed they were feeling.
Yeah.
And some, it's like work and things like you need to do around the house. But, we also have a positive one.
Good.
So some of them were not negative. They appear in a friendly manner. So
good. These are friendly thoughts. Well, that's so perfect, because that's exactly what we want to do in this moment. It's because we're staring at these thoughts now and looking at them instead of having them be the movie that we're in. Excuse me. We can start to ask ourselves, these are my thoughts. This is what I'm experiencing. Is it helping me? Are these thoughts helping me? Because this is what our focus is at the moment. So for some of you, where obviously it's feeling like these are really positive thoughts, then that's something maybe you would say that's helpful. It's a helpful thought. It's a helpful focus to have. But I know for me, over the last couple of days, I've had moments where when I checked in on what my thoughts were, my focus was on things that were not helpful for me, not helpful for my family, not helpful for my colleagues. And that's what we want to do. We want to get to a place where we can just say, yes, I'm going to accept them, but are they helpful to me right now? So for those of you who are now staring at your thoughts, just do that. Take a moment to say, are these thoughts helping me or not? Helpful or unhelpful? Because that's exactly what we want to do when we look also at the emotions we have going on. And that's one of the other techniques we can use from mindfulness. Mindfulness says we don't want to run away from the feelings we're having, even if they're not pleasant. So when I want to run out of the room of the horror movie, that's how I'm feeling. I want to run away from it. But it's a lot more helpful for me to sit in front of that horror movie and say, it's okay. I'm just something I'm watching. It's something that I'm witnessing. I'm part of this, but I am a witness. And that gives me the distance. So one of the things you can start to do is acknowledge the emotions you're having in your body. And one of the ways to do that is in part through meditation. So you can do exactly what we did with the breath meditation. But instead of focusing on the breath, you focus in on the physical sensations you're having in your body, the emotions that are arising. And I know for a lot of people I've talked to over the last week, people have talked about anxiety being an emotion that they're feeling. And identifying where you feel it in your body is really helpful, because it's a little bit like these little eggs in that little basket. I want you to think about if someone opened a door and let all the emotions in. A lot of the time what we do is ignore them, and we're rude and we pretend they're not there, and we don't even say hello to them. But I want you to open the door and acknowledge that there are these emotions there, and you are experiencing the feelings of those emotions being there. And mindfulness tells us that allowing and accepting and acknowledging that those emotions are there do two really powerful things. One, it's proven that 40% of the impact, particularly of those stronger, more negative emotions, disappears just by us putting a label on them. So we open the door, we let them all in, we say hello to them. So, hello anxiety, hello fear, I see you, you're there. And in doing so, we've created the distance again, the distance from them being the sort of the driving force behind our behavior. And instead, we can start to have a conversation and a relationship with them. So we create enough space that, again, we can ask ourselves the question, yes, I may be feeling the anxiety or the fear for what's happening. And it's okay to feel that. And I can sit and just be with it for as long as I need to. But at some point, I might want to say, does this continue to help me to stay focused and acting from that emotion? And I've also spoken to some people in the last week who actually are doing really well at focusing in on really positive things and seeing the best in the situation that they can make of it, and are feeling energized almost like there's a sense of hope, that they have a sense of purpose even in this crazy world. And I think this resonates with social entrepreneurs so beautifully, because you are people who see the world in all its imperfection and say, right, how am I going to do something positive with this? So this is really your territory. But it's saying, I feel fear right now, I feel anxiety, but actually, do I want to let that stay? Or could I choose something different in this moment? So that's acknowledging your emotion. Open the door and let it in. And if some of you want to drop into the chat box some of the emotions you know are with you at the moment, then please feel free to do that, because you are labeling it in that process. And even more powerfully, say hello to it. Say hello, anxiety. It really helps to reduce the impact of it. And then lastly, which comes back to that beautiful point that one of our attendees made about feeling like their heart being squeezed, is we want to understand our physicality. So in exactly the same way, we can use meditation, or we can just use what we call a body scan to just scan all the way up, mentally noticing everything from the tips of our toes through our ankles, our calves, our thighs, our lower backs, our abdomen, our chests, our arms, all the way through to our hands and our fingertips, up through our necks, up through our heads, the tip of our heads, and feeling all the muscles in our faces. Because we want to just check, what is our body telling us right now? And it's instead of ignoring that back pain or the tension in your shoulders or the tightness in your jaw or the squeeze of your heart, instead of ignoring it, we just want to say, I noticed, and that my body is trying to tell me something that I need to pay attention to. So for that person who said, I can feel my heart being squeezed, just have a little conversation. First of all, say, it's okay. We're okay right now. And what are you telling me with your heart being squeezed? What is the tension in my shoulders telling me? Because in this moment, what we need to do whilst we're worrying about a lot of other people is also make sure we're looking after ourselves. Because if you are strong, you can lead others through this. So if you're carrying tension and anxiety, it's going to come out in how you're communicating at some stage later in the day. So rather check, I can feel my tension, I can feel it, I can feel my fear in, my back aching. This is telling me that I'm feeling a bit anxious right now. And we use it as a way of just signaling, do I need to get myself into a good place before I try and be there for others? So use your body as a messenger. And again, we have the conversation. Is it helpful or unhelpful? Some of you might be feeling beautifully relaxed, especially if you did a very good cardiac coherence breath, in which case, brilliant. And then we have a conversation with this very relaxed body and say, is this helpful? You might say, yes, it's really helpful right now, in which case that's great. But we use our bodies as a way of telling us what's going on. Now, all of this comes through and is of help for you during these moments. But I wanted to share some further thoughts that I didn't plan to initially share with you because of everything that's going on right now. And one of those is to start noticing really this idea of resistance. So in mindfulness, one of the core practices is around just checking whether we are resisting the reality of our situations at the moment. Some of you might be feeling like, I just wish this wasn't happening. Or if only I could have more hours in the day to work, this would be bearable. Or if only I could be a parent and a carer to my parents or my family all at the same time. If only I could get out and be outside more and meet people, everything would be okay. Basically, if only some other set of circumstances existed, then I could feel okay. And we talk about this being a resistance to our realities. And whilst we're resisting things, it's really hard to come up with great solutions, great ways forward, great ways of being, because resisting the reality tends to make us really sad. So one of the questions I have for you is, have you noticed yourselves resisting the reality that we're in at the moment? Wishing it was something else, wishing you could do something else, be someone else in this moment. If you felt any of that resistance, just raise your hand for me. Lovely. And I can see some of those hands going up. So one of the most powerful tools in mindfulness that we can remember is that you are in a much stronger position when you can just accept that this is what's happening. And acceptance isn't a resentful acceptance. It's more than that. It's about saying, not only do I acknowledge this is what is happening, but I choose it. And I don't mean you would want this, but there's something about the idea of accepting that can still be a bit of resistance. Do you know what I mean? There's that, oh, fine, if I have to, accept this is the situation, I'll have to do it. But there's still an element of resistance there. And rather what we want to do is say, I'm absolutely allowing what is happening to be what is happening. And I'm going to put myself in an active position to do something within it and to choose to do something positive within it. And that is the choice to do something. So I'm going to choose the reality because I can do something positive with it. So check in with yourself after this webinar of when you feel a resistance to the reality of what's going on. And that connects in, and as you're doing that, I should say, have a quick conversation and ask yourself, is it helping me to resist this reality? And it never is. So always take a moment to go, right, instead of resisting, I'm going to really try and choose this. I'm going to choose this moment. And that kind of links into this second point about being in the past or the future. Mindfulness at its absolute heart is about being in the present moment and nothing else. And that's really powerful. I mean, I've definitely found myself over the last week thinking, oh, if only a month ago I'd done this, or if only we could have a situation be something like it was in the past. Or I found myself worrying about the future that I really don't know what's going to happen. And with the news unfolding so fast, the future and what I'm trying to predict is changing so fast that that's been incredibly stressful. So living in the future and living in the past has meant that this time has been more stressful at times for me than I would have needed it to be. And mindfulness has been a beautiful resource for saying, the only thing that's happening right now is what's happening right now for you. And you can take a moment, whether it's making a cup of coffee in the morning, whether it's hugging a loved one, whether it's sharing a smile over a Zoom conversation, is to make sure that you do not bring a past or a future into that moment. You just bring only you and that experience. And it means even in the tiniest of moments, you'll find something beautiful and incredibly hopeful about those moments. For me right now, there's nothing except for this conversation and you guys. And that is a truly beautiful thing for me to share this moment with you. It brings me a lot of hope about everything that's going on. So when the times get really difficult, just check yourself as well. Is my thought in the future or the past? And if I had to just bring it to my very present moment, What could I find? What joy could I find right here, right now, in this moment? And that brings me to this beautiful quote from Viktor Frankl. And I've got something that's blocking it on my screen right now, so I'm just going to read it from my notes. But Viktor Frankl, some of you might be familiar with, and this quote is used in mindfulness all the time. And it says that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. And really what he means is that when we get the news of what's happening, before we react, we have a little moment to pause. We have a moment to think about, how do I want to be in this moment? What do I choose to focus my thoughts on? Which emotions am I going to allow in to play? And how am I going to make sure I'm feeling physically? And this isn't easy at the moment, but if you can take just a breath, you can ask yourself, even though I'm feeling stress and anxiety and pressure or uncertainty about what's happening, can I choose in this moment to be kindness, to be generosity, to be hope? And if you can find the strength to do that, then you're in a beautiful place to make a huge difference to other people's lives at the moment. So I hope you find as much of those small spaces, just take a breath and think about, are my thoughts and my focus helpful? Is my emotion helpful to me right now? And do I need to somehow find a way to shift it? Which really leads me on to this concept of choice. Because in any moment, no matter how strong the thoughts are and the focus is and the emotions are and the physicality is, I want you to know there is always a choice between choosing this unhelpful, unhealthy apple or the healthy one. There's always a sense that even though things might be bad, you can choose a more positive outlook, a more positive mindset by using mindfulness. And I'm reminded of this every time somebody sends me a brilliant little GIF or meme or little joke through, that even in the midst of all this darkness, I can find something to laugh about. And it's proof that just shifting your focus, shifting your thoughts, can change how you start to feel, even if just for a moment. So every day, think about the choice you have of what your thoughts are, what your emotions are, and how you can make your body feel physically. And I hope you make a choice as often as you can in the next coming months to choose something really powerful. Which is my last point for you before we go to open up for some questions. The last couple of weeks have led me to talk about inner leadership a lot. And what I mean by inner leadership is this question of, in these moments, who are we choosing to be for ourselves and for others? I have certainly been through some incredibly testing moments when I had to lock myself away in a room and have a good cry, moments where I've been stressed and anxious. But there's always been something where I've had that little pause and that moment to say, I am feeling this, I am experiencing this. But is this going to help me get where I want to go? Is this going to help me help others? So I want you to think about how unbelievably brave you have been as social entrepreneurs, as people doing the work you do, and how important it is for you in this moment to use things like mindfulness to check in, where am I at? And is this helpful? Because today we need leadership. We need people to bring hope and positivity to get us through this. I'm getting far too emotional talking about this. And I would really encourage you, as such an incredible group, many of whom I've had the privilege of working with, to make sure you take the moment to inspire others by inspiring yourself and looking after yourself. So that's wrapping us up for the bit I wanted to share. So Louisa, I'm going to take this now over to you to help me ask the group if they've got any questions. So any questions about mindfulness, about using some of these techniques. I'm going to try and get myself a bit more composed. And in the meantime, I'm also going to just jump off this screen so you can see me in full as well. So Louisa, can I ask you to check if there's any questions coming through from anybody, any comments, any tips you'd love to share, if you've got some experience using mindfulness yourselves, that you'd love to contribute so that everyone on this webinar can take something really powerful away as well. So please add those thoughts into the comments box. We would love to see that from you. And as I do that, I'm going to come back to you. And Louise, I'm going to ask you to come off mute for me as well.
Yes, I think I am. I was just thinking about if someone wanted to share live, they could chat and say, I would like to go live, and I could unmute them. Beautiful. Let's see if it works or not, you know? We're not sure if it works, we'll see. So just if you would like to really share in voice, which is different than me reading your comments, just tell me and I will try to unmute you.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, so I think since I've jumped back into my different screen, I can see that there's a question about advice for parents with many children at home, and if they have to telework from home, having 3 children. You may have just heard some noise in the background, which is my son returning back into the house. So I can definitely relate to this. The first thing is there's no easy answer. So this is a whole new world. The world we had where work was something we could compartmentalize and have, this is work, this is children and family and home. It doesn't exist. So part of what I want you to check with yourself is, are you resisting this new reality? Wishing it was something else other than it is, wishing your children were quieter, wishing they had more patience, wishing they could do things by themselves without needing you all the time. So one of the things is to say, let's just accept and allow this to be our new situations. And if we had to design a solution for our new environments, what would that look like? Now, I can't tell you what's right for your family, but I think sitting down together maybe and having a conversation about, in this status, in this new world, how do we collectively make this work as a family? And in doing that for us as a family, one of the things I noticed was that we decided we'd have a morning meeting all together to plan out our day, set some ground rules, and also be very kind to ourselves. So some days it's easier for me to work than others, and that's okay. And I'm just doing the best I can, and that's all you can do for yourselves as well. But I think the other element that we talked about that's helpful for you, apart from resisting, is to make sure that you are completely as mindful as you can be in any moment that you are in. So I noticed that when I'm with my son, but my brain is also half on my email list or the news, he knows it, and he knows he's not getting my full attention. So he comes looking for it more often. But if I'm with him and I really am dedicating my full attention to him in that moment, he somehow seems to be more forgiving to me when I need to be focused on something else. So that would be my second recommendation for you. So first of all, check you're not resisting the reality, design for this new reality, and try and be as mindful as you can in every moment.
So Kim, I'm going to unmute one of the participants. Let's see if it works.
Hi, I'm seeing.
Hello.
What's your question?
I'm sorry, my camera is not working, but can you hear me?
I can, that's wonderful.
All right. No, I just wanted to share because I've been through many things and I am actually bringing to all other participants news from the world without anxiety. I just wanted to tell you guys that there is world completely without an anxiety, and I'm not sitting 100 meters under the earth in a bunker. No matter what's happening And there are things happening to me, but I don't feel any anxiety because I think I was lucky to reach that mindful state where this really works. And Kim, I really liked your presentation, and I think you're doing it very well. There's a lot of positive energy, and first of all, I can hear that you truly believe in what you're saying. That's what I particularly like, and just keep up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See, it's proof. Here's living proof for us that it's possible to separate from that anxiety. Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. Louisa, do we have anyone else?
Yes, we have a question on teaching mindfulness for kids, and if there are any apps that you can recommend.
Yeah, do you know, there are. I mean, I'm going to put some further links to some great apps in the email we'll send out as well. I'm a massive fan of the Calm app. It looks beautiful, which is part of what I need things to be. But it does have a section in there as mindfulness for kids. It depends on the attention span of your kids and how old they are. But you can do very simple breath meditations for very young children. So getting them to pretend that they're blowing out a candle and just to notice the sound of the breath, how long it lasts. So even just a little bit of attention for them. You can get them to talk about their feelings and where they feel it, like point to it in the body. You can get them to do little exercises where they do a body scan as well. So one that I like to do with my son as he's falling asleep is just to wiggle your toes, tense your legs, let the tension drop away, tense your arms, let it drop away, tense your face, let it drop away. So he's connecting with his body again. There's also a beautiful technique that we like to do every evening before bed with him, but we've started using it in our morning meeting, which is a gratitude exercise. And I wish I put this into the webinar, but gratitude is one of the most powerful techniques we can be using right now. So we do a game, which is list 10 things on your fingers of things you're grateful for right now. And a lot of the examples he gives are, I'm grateful for my Lego train set. I'm grateful for my Lego train set. I'm grateful for my Lego train set. But it's the focus for him and what he's happy about. But that's a beautiful technique. And I started even with myself, just making sure before I get out of bed, I don't open the news to switch my brain on. I start my moment before I even got out of bed, just thinking about the 10 things I'm grateful for that day that are there for me or have happened in the day before. So use gratitude with your kids is another lovely thing. And if they've got a bit more of an attention span, you can do very simple breath meditations just like yours with them as well. So I will pop into the email any further ideas for things I can connect to, but there's so much resource out there if you have a good Google.
I'm going to unmute Fiona.
So I think she looks, there we go. Hi.
Hi, Kim. Hi, Louisa.
Hi, Fiona.
I just wanted to share with everyone a thought that's been coming through a lot from the community I'm in, which is disabled people who very often are housebound and are in isolation every day. But what was bad was last week was because it was enforced by the government that we had to be isolated, it made me really anxious. But what I kind of put into my head was, this is just the same as normal. Just carry on. I accepted the change, and now I've accepted it. I'm a lot happier. I'm a lot more able to do things. And I just wanted to share that with you because it's a way, and every morning I'd wake up and I'd cry. And now I don't. Now I'm happy again. I just thought I'd share that.
Oh, I thank you. So that's such a beautiful example of accepting the reality. And I'm so pleased it's been such a positive experience for you. And I love that as a community, you've got such an amazing experience to share for people during this time. So thank you so much for adding that. Really appreciate it. And it's lovely to hear your voice.
So I have
Oh, Louise, I've just got you on mute again.
screen to the other. So I'm reading the question for you, which is how to balance between mindfulness and being focused on the present and growth and future goals and challenges.
Oh, I love that question. So mindfulness says, yes, be focused on your present, but it doesn't say you can't think about where you want to go in your future. And if anything, it asks you to, when you think about your future, do it with mindfulness and do it from a place of, excuse me, intuition. So recently I was working with a team and we were talking about how they need to be planning for their future. And a lot of what they had to do was pull together a lot of detail, do a lot of analysis, a lot of strategic thinking to work out how are we going to get to where we want to go. And then suddenly this crisis hit and the entire world has changed. And they know they still want to achieve that goal of the future, but they don't have time to be doing all the strategy and the analysis. And one of the other components of mindfulness that I think is so beautiful is that when we strip away fear and anxiety and the unhelpful thoughts, and we really focus on the future, like focus on that point, and we ask ourselves from a place of strength and positivity, what do we think is possible about that future? Something actually even more powerful can come up. So it's almost, when I say to people, I say things like, what does your intuition tell you is possible in the future? What does it tell you you could be achieving in this time? And a lot of people have said, you know what, despite all the things happening right now, I think this could be an amazing time for us to make the most of X, Y, and Z in their work or at home. So they've actually, by using the focus of mindfulness, seen a different version of the future, something that's almost more exciting. And what they then go back into the present is now, how do I connect in my present activity to get to that future goal? And if anything, one of the things we also notice is that when we allow our focus to drift into unhelpful things and our emotions go to unhelpful places and our physicality goes to an unhelpful place, then what happens is, even if we've got that lovely goal of the future, our activity is coming from this not helpful place. And so we start trying to go and get there and it doesn't quite get us to that place. Whereas when we use mindfulness and we say, well, how am I being? Well, what's my inner leadership right now? And we get ourselves into the strongest place we can get to, then the quality of our doing starts to change and we're more likely to head and hit that goal accurately. So mindfulness will say, make sure you keep thinking about that future, do it from your best self, and then work from your best self in order to get there. So I hope that answers your question. And can I ask you just to pop off the mutes, Louisa?
Okay, hold on. Is it okay? No.
Yes, perfect. No, it's muted you again.
And mute now. So a final question, which is advice for someone with pets, since they are great practitioners of mindfulness. If you're feeling anxious, worried, etc., take some time to spend it and connect with your pet. So they will show you how to be present in the moment. So I just thought that we should share these tip from one of our participants.
I love that. Animals have this amazing ability to just have you be completely with them, and they live completely and only in the moment. So it's such a great tip. Thank you so much for sharing it. I also see that someone's asked about whether we'll share some tips on books. I'll pop those into the email that will go out to you as well. So very happy to do that. Louisa, I'm just looking at time and I wish we had more, but what are your thoughts on, do we have time for anything else?
Can I just...
Oh, I need to just type, the mute's popped on again.
I have someone that will close, so it's Veronica.
Great. Do you want to see if we can?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. How are you? I hope, well, I can see you're okay. Can you
Yeah.
listen? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear you. So nice to hear your voice.
You too. I just want to share something. I have a 5-year-old, just turned 5, so he's very little, and a 14-year-old here. And in the beginning was very hard for me to work, and I just gave up working. But that anxiety came because everything was getting too much work not being done. And then I talked to my family, and I said, there are moments here where when I really have to be working, like this one, for instance, because my 5-year-old is always mom, mom. It's mom for everything. So,
Yeah.
and I explained also to him that, listen, mommy today in the afternoon has to work, okay? And at that time, you go to your sister. And I told her, I asked her if she could be with him. And she said, okay, for that hour. And he just woke up. He called me, but my daughter went there, and he just came into the room, said hi with the hand, gave me a yogurt, and said, it's for you, but not, it's for you.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you. And he just went, because it's just to share that, it is possible somehow. We cannot work as we worked before, but it is possible.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope there are others of you in a similar situation who take so much hope from that. They can surprise us, even these little ones. And it sounds like you did, you stopped resisting the reality and had it be what it is, and you've designed something really beautiful with your family. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so grateful.
So, Kim, I think we can wrap up and look for the next one. And any last final message that you want to share with us?
Well, just first of all, a massive thank you. Thank you for being on this and giving this gift to yourself to go and access this thinking. We'll send out the email with all the links in it. And just to let you know that in response to a lot of parents in particular who said this is just a time when I'm not getting anything for myself, I'm going to be hosting a couple of evening meditation sessions online on Zoom. So if you fancy taking 45 minutes, half an hour, nothing too long, to just find some time for yourself to get back to you and your best version of you, then please join me. I will put links into the email, so look out for that. And we will be hosting more of these webinars. So if there's any particular topics you'd love the EIB to be working on, please let Louisa know, or likewise me, I'm happy to look into any other topics for you. And otherwise, from me, just a massive message of stay safe, look after yourselves, be the beautiful inner leaders I know you can be, and going to make an amazing contribution in this time.